Hey guys, it's Alexandra. Today we're going to be talking with Ari, who has trichotillomania, which is a psychological disorder where you pull your hair out. It's not very talked about, but it is pretty common. So she is going to be talking about what it's like to live with that disorder, both physically and mentally, how she is able to, accept her disorder and embrace her flaws and use that to still be confident and positive in her life. I think it's really awesome to see somebody take a sort of taboo mental health disorder and be so open to share it with others. I hope that you will stay tuned to check her out, learn a little bit more about trichotillomania, and you can also subscribe for more videos. All right, thank you so much.
Get your money, man. Life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away.
If I could stop pulling out my hair, I would. I have a psychological disorder called trichotillomania that gives me urges to pull out my own hair, and it's often caused by PTSD, depression, or anxiety. The way I see it is I'm probably never going to be able to control the urges I get because that's just my brain, but I can try to control how much I pull. So I've been in therapy for almost 10 years and I have strategies that I try to use every single day to try to reduce the amount I pull and fight the urges. And I've gone literally months at a time before without pulling out my hair, and right now I just happen to be struggling with my condition a lot, and that's okay. But this disorder has impacted my life so much and has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through, and so obviously if I could just stop, I would. This disorder is absolutely awful to live with, and I know it's hard to understand, but the brain can be a really scary, complicated thing sometimes. And it's not just me, literally millions of people struggle with this.
So I have a condition called trichotillomania, and it's a psychological disorder. So, it's just a chemical imbalance in your brain, kind of like any mental illness. I've had it since I was 11, and trichotillomania is basically it's a form of OCD actually. And so it's basically when your brain gives you compulsions to compulsively pull out your own hair. And so it's such a spectrum. So some people pull out their eyelashes, some people pull out their eyebrows, leg hair, pretty much like any hair you can think of on your body. And I only pull from my scalp. And yeah, and it's a body focused repetitive behavior. So there's a sister condition called dermatillomania, which is skin picking. So they're kind of similar, they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah.
So, what are some of the things that you think are misunderstood about this disorder? I feel like people might hear what you're explaining to me and say, well, that's weird. Why don't you just not do that? Why do you do that? Don't you hate that you do that? Of course, it's not, it's a little out of the box. It's not your typical, when people think about OCD, I don't think that's what they typically think about. They think about cleaning obsessively, or you're obsessed with being organized and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what are some of those misconceptions that you would want people to know more about?
Yeah, so that's definitely true. OCD is such a spectrum, and it's manifested in so many different forms that people really don't think of, and trichotillomania is one of them. And yeah, I get told all the time, in real life and in my TikTok comments, well, why don't you just stop? Isn't it just easy to just stop? Why would you want to do that to yourself? And but yeah, people don't understand that it's a very serious psychological disorder, and it's extremely hard to stop. That's honestly the only way I can really justify it is that's literally just how my brain is. To me, when you have trichotillomania, it's you pull out your hair because it's it gives you a relieving feeling, and it releases dopamine in your brain, so it almost feels good, it feels satisfying, and so it's really hard to resist the urge to do it.
Mhm.
And again, some people will pull out their hair as a coping mechanism for other conditions like anxiety, depression, or PTSD even. So I think even telling someone, oh, why can't you just stop, or something like that, can be kind of just inconsiderate, because a lot of the times people who do have trichotillomania will tend to pull out a lot of hair during times in their life where they might be struggling. So someone might be going through like a really depressive episode, and that's kind of what triggers a lot of their trichotillomania. And so that might be like a time in their life where they'll pull a lot more hair. So it's like harder to control during kind of different, like with different emotions and different situations and stuff. And yeah, and it's kind of like, obvious, like I'm like a normal like 20-year-old girl. Obviously, like I would don't want to be bald if I could. Like this condition has really like altered my life in so many ways, and so like obviously if I could just not do it, like I wouldn't be here, you know. So yeah, but I think a big part of that is just because it's not a rare condition, it's just like not talked about a lot.
Mhm.
And yeah, so people just like don't know, don't really understand, which is like understandable because there isn't like much information and like representation out there. But yeah, yeah.
And because it's something that's so visible and physical, how do you overcome that side of it? How do you, if you've had a really bad episode and you still need to move on with your life and do the things that you want to do, how do you get past the physical aspect of it in order to maintain, some sort of like self-esteem and positivity in your life?
Mhm. Yeah, that has been self-esteem for me personally has been one of my like biggest challenges, because like you said, it's so visible. And I think like one thing that I really struggled with is like, not only do I just feel self-conscious and like not like pretty when I have big bald spots, but also I feel like for me at least, my bald spots sometimes are like also a representation of like my mental state, like for example, like if I'm going through a time where like I'm really depressed, for which is so like sadness and depression is one of my like big triggers for pulling out my hair a lot. It'll kind of like show on my head, you know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of like I'm like kind of like revealing that to the world, you know what I mean? And I find that to be really hard too. Like, oh, people like know I'm like struggling, and I don't want like random people to know I'm struggling. So yeah, self-esteem has been a really big challenge, especially because I've also struggled with the idea of like, like, oh, well, if I don't want to look like this, I should just stop. Like I'm doing this to myself, I'm making myself
Mhm.
like ugly, and which is like not true. But and so it takes a lot of work. And I think for me too, like I started when I was 11 and I'm 20 now. So I kind of like grew up in my really like formative years of life, like middle school, high school, and I'm in college now with this disorder, and like going through like all these like life stages. I'm still like growing up, and like making new friends and like navigating like social life and stuff. So it was really hard being confident. I think everyone deals with it differently. Like some people are totally comfortable with like showing their bald spots, and some people like are really not. I definitely used to be really self-conscious. Like I would go like to the ends of the earth to hide them. And but like honestly, sometimes it gets to a point where like it's so big that I can't hide it. And I think honestly, like probably in the last like 2 years is when I've been a little bit like more comfortable in my own skin to show them. But yeah, I still honestly, like if I still hide them, like I still wear wigs a lot and I wear hats a lot, but it really like, yeah, I think a lot of it comes with age and like maturity too. And like being also like surrounding yourself with people who won't judge you, you know what I mean? Like I have like roommates that I live with, and I know like I don't care if I have my bald spot around them, because I know like they don't care, you know what I mean?
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's difficult too because I feel like what's your good day or your good period of time may someone else objectively may look at that and be like, and you know what I mean, notice that you have bald spots or whatever, but to you maybe it's way better than it was a month ago or way better than it
Yeah.
was a week ago. And so to go through that mentally is, I think to be able to especially make jokes about it is like really powerful because that's, I think that comes from a place of you finally accepting it and using that. And I think I saw some of your videos were like funny and I was like, that is so it's like empowering to see somebody who's struggling be able to, make light of it. So what
Yeah.
prompted you to speak out about your disorder and kind of share it with the public?
Yeah. Yeah, so I made like one video that went like so viral, and I think people from like I didn't obviously like I did not expect that, and people were just I think like I said before, a lot of people really don't know what this condition is, and so I think so many people were just like so like curious and
Right.
like just like wanted to know like what the disorder is and like how I like deal with it and like what my life is like, and so that's how, and then I kind of started making videos just like answering people's questions. um but yeah, like I honestly would have never been able to do this like even like 2 years ago. But I think I just kind of realized that like, and I kind of accepted that like whether I like it or not, trichotillomania is a really big part of me and who I am, and has like shaped a lot of my life and has like taught me so many things. And like it's definitely like I have still have really hard days like all the time, and it's not easy to live with, but um it's like yeah, it's who I am, and if people don't like accept me for that and judge me, well then that's their problem. Like I shouldn't have to try to like please other people for um that like don't understand my condition. And I think yeah, it definitely took me a long time. Like I would not have been able to do that like yeah, like a year or two ago. So
Yeah, I think it's
yeah.
awesome. I think like you said, it's common, but it's not talked about. So for you to talk
Mhm.
about it, I'm sure you've gotten comments from people that are going through the same thing, saying, "Oh my God, I do this. No one talks about
Yeah.
it. Thank you for sharing
Yeah.
it." Yeah. So have you
Yeah.
been able to have like those kind of connections?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have gotten so many like DMs and messages, which is so amazing because I've never met anyone in real life who also has this.
Mhm.
And so yeah, seeing like I've talked to like probably like 100 or so people who also have it, which has been so amazing because I think having a disorder like this, like trichotillomania, is so lonely sometimes because I grew up knowing absolutely no one who had it. I didn't even know like any like celebrities who had it or anything like that, and you just feel like it made me feel crazy. I was like, oh my god, this is like a super rare condition. It's just me, like I'm just insane and like nobody understands me. And so I think like community is so important, and I think it's so like I think people really underestimate the power of like representation and visibility, because so many people with trichotillomania suffer in silence. I think just because of the shame and embarrassment that like society is kind of like created around conditions like this. And so when they see someone, like me, who's just like a normal person, kind of joking around, like not afraid to show their bald spots and like pulling up my hair and stuff, it's kind of like, whoa, I do that too. And like, yeah, it's been like really amazing, like being able to connect on that level with like so many people. I love it.
That's awesome. And for anybody who's been able to use, you speaking out as a way for them to accept that they're going through that, would you have any kind of tips or advice for things that you've found that have been helpful or ways that you've been able to cope with it? I know it's not
Yeah.
something that's 100% curable. People might think that there's a way that you
Mhm.
can cure it. I don't, from what I know, you can't. But what are some things that have made it a little easier for you?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, so like you said, there's no like one cure or like one like even like medication for to treat trichotillomania, but there are still like a bunch of different options of like different types of therapy or strategies that you can do to help at least like pull less. But some people eventually like will find like one thing and that helps them so much and just stick to it and like completely like beat the disorder. But it's totally different for everyone. Like I've had this disorder for like almost 10 years, and I've tried like so many things, and like I know it can be so frustrating to like feel like you're just trying everything to help yourself and like nothing's working. And so I honestly, like I always say, like I'm open to trying like literally anything. Like I'm trying like hypnotherapy, which is like hypnosis, in a few weeks for the first time. Like I have tried so many things. So I think keeping an open mind on like just trying like anything, whether you think it's like ridiculous or not. I think for me, what's helped the most is um, physically preventing myself from pulling my hair out. So wearing getting like long fake acrylic nails has helped me a lot because it's like really hard to like reach your hair and pull it out, or wearing some like a hat or like a wig on my head. So I don't even have to like think about it. I kind of just like when I try to pull, it's just like, oh, it's not there. And also one thing that has helped me a lot is going to therapy, or just like you don't even have to go to therapy to do this, or just like talk to someone about the emotions that comes with having trichotillomania, because it's one thing to go to therapy to like really try to cure your disorder and try to help yourself to stop, but there's so like this disorder really takes a toll on like your entire life and your entire mental health. And I think so many like emotions can build up inside of you, and if you don't deal with those, it can like affect your life in different ways. So I think like really like talking through and working through kind of your feelings and your emotions around your life and how the disorder has affected your life like really helps a lot.
And when people see your content, what do you hope they take away from that? What's like your biggest hope that you are, sharing, and you're wanting people to get a certain message from your content? What are you hoping that they take away from that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two like different groups of people that watch my content. People who also suffer from trichotillomania
Mhm.
and watch me, yeah, because of that. And another group that don't like have never heard about it before and just are watching me because they find it interesting or they're curious about it. And so I think I really hope that people learn something, just like learn something new, learn about a condition they might not have heard of. And if, they might like meet someone one day who has it and they're like, oh, I know what that is. And I know that it's not just a bad habit and that it's not like this like weird thing, like it's a real disorder. And I hope that people who do suffer from this that watch me know that they're not alone, and this condition doesn't make you like a crazy person, and that you can be confident while having trichotillomania, and you are still beautiful, like whether you have the disorder or not, and that your mental illness does not define you. And just because it might not be talked about a lot, that your feelings and your emotions are still so valid. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I loved hearing from you, and I am so grateful that there's people like you who are talking out about mental health. I think
uh,
those things, sometimes when they're not the perfect picture of anxiety or depression, people have a hard time relating to it. And
yeah.
when you take those disorders that aren't as, romanticized, it's
Hmm.
really refreshing to see that. So thank you so much for your content, and I hope that you keep putting stuff out. I will definitely keep
Thank
following
you.
you, and I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really
Ah,
enjoyed this.
all right, it was great to meet you.
Thank you, you too.
All right, we'll keep in touch.
Okay, bye.
Bye.